Hello, America. It's me, your friendly host, star, moderator, Evan Grant. One man show here at This Week in Rangers Baseball, y'all. I should not say that because our superstar producers, Demetrio Teniente and Joey Hayden, are constantly working on putting together the video. And since I've already on take number 4, they'll have to edit out the first 3. So, thank you, because they're a great staff. Also, thank you for watching and listening to some previous videos here. If you do like this video stuff, please, on the YouTube page, give it a thumbs up. This is my thumb. And if you can, subscribe to the YouTube page. It helps us. It helps us kind of decide how often we can provide these for you. Want to do them as regularly as we can, want to expand it, and want to make sure you guys are getting what you feel like you need. This is our draft spectacular. And by spectacular, I mean I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt. We'll go over the Rangers' number 3 pick in this year's draft, and which comes up on Sunday. The Rangers will pick 3rd overall, and then they won't pick again until the 4th round. So it'll be a easy Sunday evening. But the decision won't be easy, because I really feel like there are 4 people in the Rangers mix. And certainly at least one of those or 2 of those are going to get to them when they pick at number 3. And so they're still going to have a decision. If I was choosing, I think this club's desire would be Jackson Holliday, the son of Matt Holliday, shortstop from Stillwater, Oklahoma High School, who's had a great spring, has really moved up prospect lists and draft prospect lists. He's an Oklahoma State commit, and he has just put together really the most total package of any player on the board. This is a draft that is top heavy with high school talent. So it's a little bit different, and I'd say a little bit more unpredictable than recent years. In Jackson Holliday, Drew Jones, Elijah Green, Tamar Johnson, who could be the first 4 picks. You've got 4 high school kids with really varying backgrounds. Drew Jones and Jackson Holliday, second-generation players. Drew, the son of Andrew Jones, and Jackson Holliday, the son of Matt Holliday. Drew, like his father, is a center fielder and considered the best defensive player in the draft. And like his father, I think there are some questions about just how hitterish he is. Elijah Green, who played at the highest level of high school at IMG, playing on basically a national schedule for the last 2 years, and with just off the charts raw tools. A guy who, the people I spoke to said could potentially be a franchise changing player. The 2 comps that I got from Kylie McDaniel of ESPN were Bryce Harper and Justin Upton, 2 former number 1 overall picks, both of whom were multi-time All-Stars, and in Harper's case, an MVP, and would constitute home run picks as the number 3 pick overall. But there are some questions about Green, and we'll get to that. And the 4th guy, I think, is Tamar Johnson, a left-handed hitting second baseman from the Atlanta area, from Mays High School, who played basically in a inner city district, so played his high school seasons against what was considered lesser talent. Quite frankly, he played against my alma mater, so I know that the talent level isn't that great. Although I will say, when I went there, and when it was called Briarcliff High School and not Druid Hills High School, the program was good, went to state championship. I of course did not make the team, but that was 1983, folks. Anyway, Tamar might be the best hitter in the draft. Now, there are some questions about, he doesn't have the perfect body. He's smaller. And there's some question about whether or not he'd ever be able to play anywhere other than second base. So again, I mean, if you get a world-class second baseman and the best hitter in the draft, that's going to be, to me, the profile of the best player in the draft. What you're not hearing there are a bunch of college players. And, the last couple of years with Josh Young, Justin Foscue, Jack Leiter, the Rangers have taken players from Power 5 programs in elite conferences, or Power 5 conferences and elite programs within those conferences. And there was some thought in the first round that the Rangers needed to be a little bit more predictable and get guys who were both a little bit more refined, surer things, and closer to the big leagues. But the Rangers' perspective has always been, let's get the best player. I think there have been plenty of occasions in the Rangers' past where they've shot for the moon in the first round. You can go back to 1989 when they chose Donald Harris over Frank Thomas, and that was, again, a case of Donald Harris had off-the-chart raw tools. Frank Thomas was going to be limited defensively, but was probably the best hitter in the draft. They went with Harris. One of those two guys ended up being a Hall of Famer. It was not Donald Harris. But this year, the top college players are probably Brooks Lee, a shortstop from Cal Poly, and Kevin Parada, a catcher from Georgia Tech. The Rangers have looked at them. They're interested in them, but I think they feel like the talent level is higher for these high school kids, and I don't think they're going to shy away from taking a high school kid. Now, the question I think they're going to have, because ultimately I think it's very possible that Jackson Holliday and Drew Jones go 1-2 in some order. Question I think they're going to have is, do they look at Johnson and say, we're going to value the hitting tool, which is refined and advanced, and it may basically be Justin Foscue kind of profile? Or do we look at Elijah Green, the son of former NFL tight end Eric Green, and say, we cannot pass by a guy who has the ability, if he reaches his ceiling, to change the trajectory of a franchise? I mean, that's just a player you can't pass up. The questions about Elijah Green really surfaced last year. I think he went into his junior year at IMG as considered, I was starting to hear tank for Elijah before last season ever started. But I think in his junior year, there were some things exposed. He struck out a lot more. In talking with with the director of baseball at IMG, Dan Simons, there was some thought that after Elijah Green got put on the national stage, and after he had a 400-foot plus home run into the back of the visitors bullpen against South Lake Carroll at Globe Life Field in March of 21. He hit a home run with Team USA 456 feet at Tropicana Field, which I hope didn't land in the manta ray tank, because it would have done some damage to one of the little cute manta rays. But the thought was that maybe Elijah got too preoccupied with trying to perform for the scouts and trying to hit home runs further and further, and that led to a bigger leg kick, led to a longer swing, and it led to swing and miss. And so there was a lot of concern, and particularly where the Rangers are concerned. Look, the Rangers drafted Joey Gallo in the first round in 2012, and he was taken with the 41st pick, probably the 10th or 11th best pick in the entire draft that year. So Joey's been a productive player. But the conversation on Joey Gallo has always been, did he reach his maximum ceiling because of the swing and miss? And there were some concerns that Elijah's swing and miss profile was higher in high schools than Joey Gallo's. And so when you've got some intimate experience with that, it's going to make you think a little bit harder. On the other hand, doing a lot of other hands today. I'm sorry. octopus thing. I don't know. This is a guy who's just got incredible raw skills. He is a second generation athlete, just like Holiday and Drew Jones. His father was an NFL tight end. Eric Green spoke with his dad this week for a story that's up on DallasNews.com right now. Hope you'll get a chance to read it on Elijah and the really the decision about whether or not to take him. And I think a lot of the things that you would apply to why you like the second generation baseball players also apply to why you would like a second generation professional athlete. The same kind of projections and all of those things apply in terms of elite performance, maybe a different sport. But let's remember that the son of Brant Jobe, Jackson Jobe, was also a top 10 pick. And Brant was a golfer on a PGA tour for a long time, top 10 pick last year. And I think there is some belief right now that throughout the game, really, that you're seeing more and more guys who are second generation athletes, whether it's baseball players or other professional athletes, be top 10 picks and excel. And this year we may set a record for second generation baseball players, major leaguers, who were drafted, with Holiday, Jones, Cam Collier, son of Luke Collier, and Justin Crawford, the son of Carl Crawford, all of whom could go in the first round. So I think that's a factor too. I mean, I think when you look at what Eric Green accomplished as a 10-year NFL tight end, Pro Bowler, and the work ethic he had, certainly if you're trying to gauge makeup, and that's the big mystery in scouting today, is how do you gauge makeup? We can gauge biomechanics better. We can gauge velocities, exit velocities, hard hit balls, speed. We can gauge all that stuff. We can put numbers on it. But the question that always will make the draft more of a mystery is which of these guys are going to tap into their competitive levels and their makeup to make adjustments when the game gives them issues, and two, who are just going to maximize their skills. And we don't have a way to quantify that. That's the big mystery. If we did, the draft wouldn't be interesting, and it wouldn't be maddening at the same time. So I think the one to go back to strikeouts for a second, and I know I'm rambling a little bit because I've never done a draft spectacular before. And so it's a little bit awe-inspiring here. But to go back to the strikeout thing, the one thing I have heard from scouts over the last few years is that one thing that they do fear that translates from whether it's a high school level player or college level player is if there's a lot of swing and miss, they feel like that's going to continue to persist throughout a player's career. Yes and no. You know, the percentages may say that will be the case, but there's going to be outliers, and there's going to be, and I would also say that the percentages are not so prohibitive that it says, well, we just need to stay away from these kids whatsoever. So that I think is the Rangers' decision here in a nutshell. You know, do you shoot for the moon and go for the kid who could change your franchise? Do you go for a kid who could be a really good hitter at a position where you've got some strength right now, but who could be a really good hitter and add a dynamic level of offense to your lineup? So that's something I think the Rangers have been working through all throughout their draft meetings, and I think it's something that they're probably still, as I record this on Thursday morning, probably still debating. It's a great debate. I, in the past, would have leaned towards go as predictable as you can, because we've seen the Rangers miss an awful lot. I also know that, you know, if you get a generational player, look, you could take this strategy 20 times, 25 times. Shoot for the moon with the first rounder, and miss horribly, 24 of them. But if you hit one, you've got Mike Trout or Bryce Harper or Aaron Judge. That's a franchise-changing player, and that's a player that does come along once in 25 years, once in 50 years, does change the entire trajectory of your franchise. So that, I think, is, as I've said, is the Rangers' decision. I think the rest of the first round is also going to be interesting, at least for local interest. Jace Young, the brother of Josh Young, is going to go in the top 15 picks. He's also at Texas Tech. Jace is second baseman, and he will. I'm looking at the Baseball America mock draft right now, the most recent Baseball America mock draft, which does have Elijah Green going to the Rangers at 3, by the way. But it also projects Jace Young going at 10, and it predicts Jet Williams of Rockwall Heath going 11. So the Rockies would get Young. The New York Mets would get Jet Williams, the shortstop from Rockwall Heath, who really also has kind of zoomed up some charts this year. I know at the outset of the year, I went out to Rockwall Heath and talked with their program. And at that point in time, there were some people talking about Jet as a second round pick. He's now in the upper half of the first round. And I will tell you that I talked to a scout before the season who told me this is going to be the best player in the area, and he's going to be a first rounder. Don't dispute that. So there were people who had a lot of odds on him. The one question I had for the Rangers the other day was, since there is no second and no third round pick this year, because this team signed Marcus Semien and Corey Seager, do you have to be a little bit more risk averse than normal? Do you have to make sure that you get a player in the first round, or do as much as you can to make sure you get a player in the first round? And listen, the Rangers are always going to be candid, are going to be anything but candid on that. But their perspective has always been, you draft for the best players. So I don't think that the Rangers will do any. My point here is, I don't think the Rangers will do any funny monkey business. I don't think they will go for maybe a slot guy or a lower or a below slot guy in the number one pick, and then use 5th and 6th round picks to try and get guys who would probably not have signed as 3rd or 4th rounders. I think you go and you identify the best talent this year. You take that. You do not factor in ultimately that you don't have a 2nd or 3rd round pick. You've got one of the top 10 farm systems in minor league baseball right now, according to Fangraphs, number 7 overall. You've got some very nice young players in the starting lineup right now in Josh Smith, Leody Taveras. Ezekiel Duran is pushing towards the big leagues, and Sam Huff is going to get more of a look. So I think that you have the ability to take a little bit of risk because your farm system is deep right now. And if the Rangers go that route, I think that I think they're justified. So last year I felt pretty confident making a Jack Leiter prediction. This year I'm gonna predict Elijah Green to the Rangers at number 3 overall. I just think that the tantalizing talent argument is going to prevail this year when there is the overall level of less predictability that goes along with high school players. If one of these guys was a college player who had 2 more years of playing, of living away from home, of all of that stuff, I think that would become a little bit more predictable. But I will say this about the kids who go to IMG. Elijah Green lived at IMG for 2 years. He was essentially at a college campus playing a national schedule, touring, had all those things that kids have to get used to, that high school kids have to get used to their first year in pro ball. He's basically made that adjustment. It's an adjustment that college kids don't have as much of a difficult time with because they've done it for 2 or 3 years. So anyway, so that's my prediction for Sunday. Elijah Green to the Rangers at number 3 overall. And we'll be back next week with a second half preview and a review the Rangers draft and anything else you've got. So thanks everybody for joining our draft spectacular. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.